I have 9 o'clock, and I'd like to call the August 17, 2026 Person County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. I do recognize we have a quorum at this time. Commissioner Thomas, will you lead us in our invocation?
Let us all pray, please. Our most kind and dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning thanking you for all the blessings in life. We want to thank you for bringing us here this morning. We want to thank you for the beautiful day that you've given us. Lord, on this day we want to ask you to be with all our students, be with our teachers as they start school up. I'm sure there are a lot of nervous kids and a lot of nervous teachers out there, so we ask you just to be with them and comfort them and just ease their nerves and just hope we have a good school year in Person County. We want to ask you to be with all our first responders, be with those that answer the call in a time of need. We ask you just to be with them and take care of them and watch over them and lead them as only you can. Lord, we ask you to build this group, build this board, God, as we make decisions for this county. The Lord, help us to make the correct decision that would help this county thrive. The Lord, want to ask you just to be with all the sick and the suffering, be with those that are taking care of them. Lord, we want to thank you for giving your Son to die on the cross so we can have eternal life. And we ask you just to go with us, forgive us of all our sins, God, and just watch over us, lead us, guide us, keep us all safe. In your heavenly name I do pray. Amen.
Commissioner Long, will you lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance?
Everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Members of the board, you have the agenda before you. Is there any discussion or adjustment of the agenda? Having hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda? We have a motion. Any further discussion? Having hearing none, all in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The agenda's been approved. First item, item 5A, library card sign-up proclamation, library director.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Whereas since 1987, the American Library Association and libraries across the United States have acknowledged and celebrated Library Card Month from September 1st through September 30th, and whereas during the month of September, libraries and communities across the United States celebrate the value of the libraries, particularly the vital role libraries play in the lives of children and families by providing them with free and educational books and other resources that positively support educational outcomes as students and teachers prepare for the start of a new school year. And whereas libraries and their staff help foster community, build literacy skills, and bridge the digital divide by providing people of all backgrounds with engaging programs and events to attend, a wide array of materials to borrow, and access to technology to help them succeed in an increasingly digital and connected world. And whereas all Personians are encouraged to sign up for, update, or replace their library card to continue to enjoy access to a wealth of materials available through the North Carolina Cardinal System, a consortium of participating libraries with access to materials from around the state of North Carolina.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Person County Board of Commissioners proclaims the month of September 2026 as Library Card Sign-Up Month in Person County and encourages all citizens to visit and use the Person County Public Library to become more informed and inspired and to imagine infinite possibilities. Do I have a motion to approve said proclamation?
So moved.
We have a motion. All in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Adopted this 17th day of August 2026. Signed, Kyle Puryear, Chairman, Person County Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, sir.
Item 5B, Senior Citizen Day Proclamation. Mrs. Brown.
Today I have with me Maynell Harper from the Person County Senior Center. For the last 25 years, our organization, the Cooperative Extension Service, and the Senior Center have worked together to host our annual Aging with Gusto event. For the last 10 years, it's been held on the last Tuesday of August, which will be next Tuesday here in the Person County Office Building. We do this event to provide information and resources to our seniors because they give so much to us. And therefore, we are here today for a proclamation declaring this Friday National Senior Citizen Day. Whereas on August 21st, 1988, then President Ronald Reagan proclaimed the day National Senior Citizens Day with proclamation number 5847, stating for all they have achieved throughout life and for all they continue to accomplish. We owe older citizens our thanks and a heartfelt salute. We can best demonstrate our gratitude and esteem by making sure that our communities are good places in which to mature and grow older, places in which older people can participate to the fullest and can find the encouragement, acceptance, assistance, and services they need to continue to lead lives of independence and dignity. And whereas many traditions exist when it comes to senior citizens, as many of our traditions growing up were set by them. Whereas in 2025, the number of people aged 65 and above outnumbered children younger than 18 years. And whereas by year 2050, the increase in population of 65-plus-year-olds will be 23%. And whereas 4 in 5 older adults will battle at least one chronic illness. And whereas in 2021, 40% of Person County's dentists, 24% of our physicians, and 15% of our pharmacists were over the age of 65. Whereas elderly family and friends have a lifetime's worth of experiences and stories and are an invaluable resource for wisdom, knowledge, and advice. And whereas senior citizens make more charitable donations than any other age group, volunteer their time, and look out for their loved ones.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Person County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim the 21st day of August 2026 as National Senior Citizens Day in Person County, and calls upon all Person County citizens to celebrate older adults for their contributions, support their independence, and recognize their unparalleled value to our community. Do I have a motion to approve the said proclamation?
So moved.
Do I have a motion? All in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Adopted this 17th day of August 2026. Signed, Kyle Puryear, Chairman, Person County Board of Commissioners. Item 5C, Child Support Awareness Month Proclamation. Adonica Hampton.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Proclamation, Child Support Awareness Month, and if our team of child support staff and staff members would stand. Whereas children are entitled to financial and emotional support from their parents, and North Carolina Child Support Services is dedicated to serving families and children. And whereas state fiscal year 2025-2026, nearly $649 million was collected, providing support to more than 288,000 North Carolina children. Whereas Person County Child Support Services in state fiscal year 2025-2026 collected over $3,115,895, providing support for the children, and Person County established paternity at 97% of its annual goal. And whereas children who do not receive adequate financial and emotional support for their parents from their parents may experience greater difficulty in becoming happy, healthy, and productive adults. And whereas many concerned and dedicated professionals, judges, district attorneys, clerks of court, sheriff's personnel, along with child support professionals, work to establish and enforce child support orders in North Carolina for North Carolina's children, one of our most vital resources.
Now therefore, in recognition of child support services, the Person County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim August 2026 as Child Support Awareness Month in Person County and commend its observation to all residents. Do I have a motion to approve the proclamation? We have a motion. All in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Adopted this 17th day of August 2026. Signed, Kyle Puryear, Chairman, Person County Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, as a former vice chair of the DSS board, I want to thank all of y'all for what you do. But I also want to thank all the parents that don't have to be made to support their children emotionally and financially too. So, but I appreciate everything y'all do. Thank you.
Thank y'all all for being here today. Thank you for all. Item 6, informal comments. Madam Clerk, do we have any to sign up?
Yes, sir, we do. We have one individual.
We have one individual. We have a 10-minute period. So 10 minutes, if the speaker would like to use the entire minutes, he's certainly entitled to do so. Remind the speaker to state his address the board as a whole, not individuals, and there will be no dialogue between the commissioners and the speaker during the 10-minute comment period. Madam Clerk, will you call the first speaker, please?
Yes, sir, Charlie J. Charlie J.
This is my first time, so hope y'all can bear with me.
Mr. J, please state your name clearly and your address.
My name is Charlie Elbert J. Jr. My address is 1567 Peed Road, Rougemont, North Carolina, 27572. I'm here today in regards to actually my quality of life. Unfortunately, the Republic Service Upper Piedmont Environmental Landfill is directly behind my home. It's been there since its inception, and I've dealt with various inconsistencies and problems with my quality of life. I mean, every morning, the bulldozers are running, I guess probably around 7 o'clock in the morning, trucks entering and leaving, so I'm literally waking up every morning, whether I want to wake up or not. In the afternoon, the gas pumps are pumping from from dawn till early in the mornings, and they have no suppressors on those pumps. And not to mention the waste that comes from it, especially when it rains. The smell is unbearable. And then it's the vultures that's hanging around because of the smell. And my thing is, I just want to have a quality of life. I'm a disabled veteran. My property is paid for. We have a farm, the J Farm, which is 70-some acres. I own 12 of those acres. And unfortunately, the landfill is directly behind my 12 acres. So basically, I get no peace. And that's all I want in life is peace. Anybody that has a home, when you go home, you want peace. It don't matter where you live at, especially if you have a mortgage. And I don't have a mortgage because I can't bear myself to invest in a home with that landfill behind my property. So I don't know what to do. That's why I'm here. I don't know what the answer is. This land's been in my family for generations. So I'm supposed to up and leave and just go somewhere else and start over again? I mean, I don't know. That's why I'm here. I'm trying to figure out a solution if there is one for me. My end game is just to have peace in my life. That's my ultimate goal. And the farm behind me, the Sullivan Farm, I think they may have allowed the landfill to run their gas lines through their property, so their taxes are exempt. My taxes went up over 100%, and I'm trying to figure that math out because it's not mathing to me. And then this, and also it affects my mental health and my physical health. I'm not sleeping properly. I'm depressed a lot, and it's taking a toll on my quality of life. And I don't think nobody on this commission or anywhere would choose to live behind a landfill or have that landfill behind their property. I mean, like I said, I'm just trying to get some kind of answers, and it's affecting my quality of life. That's the end game. That's all I want is peace. At the age I am in my life right now, and right now I can't get that. It's been going on since the landfill's inception, and now they've started a new site which they've come closer to my property. My thing is, If they got all their land, why are they still coming closer to my property? You got the whole property behind Southern Farm, why are they coming closer to me? I'm just trying to figure that out. Now, those people on the Oxford Highway side have been complaining more, or some backdoor deals, or what's going on. I can't make it make sense. So, if anybody can get me some clarity about what's going on, I would appreciate that. And another thing, where are the air quality samples? Where are the soil samples? Where are the water samples for the residents that are in proximity to the landfill? I haven't seen any of that. So, like I said, I just need some answers if I can get those. And yeah, I guess that's about it.
Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes our informal comment period.
All right, thank you so much. All right, item 7, discussion adjustment of an approval of consent agenda. Any discussion or adjustment?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Any further discussion? Having here none, all in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The consent agenda is approved. Item 8A, strategic plan quarterly update, county manager.
Good morning, Commissioners. I am pleased to provide the report for the strategic plan for the fiscal year ending June 30th of 26. Within your packets, you have a report that has been written by each department, reflecting upon the progress made on the goals that have been established through the strategic plan, as well as the budget objectives for the last fiscal year that tie into the strategic plan. So for the full year, those report outs are provided department by department. There are several things that I would like to go ahead and highlight for the board and the public this morning from that plan. It is quite lengthy. There's a lot of good information in there about what has been accomplished over the previous fiscal year. I do want to note we have had a concerted effort over several years to improve broadband connectivity throughout the county. And based on the latest information from the North Carolina Department of Information Technology, 17,056 Person County locations are currently served with reliable broadband, and there are projects still in the works that are jointly funded with federal, state, and local dollars. There are only 212 locations that remain unserved or underserved and are not funded with plans to connect in the near future. We continue to have funds set aside for broadband expansion, and we'll continue to work with the state on trying to achieve the goal of 100%. With the runway extension project at the airport, the environmental assessment phase has been completed and approved, and we are moving into the land acquisition phase of that project, so that's moving along. We put together and the board adopted both the fiscal year 27 annual budget and the CIP with a 1 cent reduction in the tax rate. Within emergency services and the 911 center, they're embarking upon a CAD improvement project that has gotten underway with anticipated completion in early of 2027. The Board of Commissioners approved recommendations from the Opioid Settlement Advisory Committee to fund early intervention projects with the school system, recovery housing support with Freedom House, and the post-overdose response team through emergency services. HR conducted a public safety pay study, which funding for that was included in the fiscal year 27 budget, and we've implemented phase 1 of that and have already seen the positive effects of being able to adjust the pay ranges for some of those positions within emergency services and the sheriff's office that were evaluated and needed market adjustments. So we've had some success filling some of those critical vacancies that we've had already in this first month or so of the fiscal year. Within GIS, staff worked to complete the transition to GIS Enterprise and conducted software upgrades throughout the year. That has been completed and training is underway. Within the library, the summer reading program had over 300 people at the opening ceremony and registered for that particular summer reading event. And the library has continued to host programs geared towards the America 250 celebration, focusing on all age groups. And within Register of Deeds, they have put in the framework to issue out-of-county birth and death certificates, and they are beginning to roll that out in the new fiscal year. So just some of the highlights that I wanted to call to your attention from that strategic plan report, and I will be happy to answer any questions you have or receive feedback on the information that has been provided.
Do you know how many vacancies we still have for paramedics?
Well, we are in the process of offering 3. Sonia, do you know how many vacancies that leaves?
I think that leaves 2 still.
Much better than what we were.
Yes.
And for those listening, she said, I think 2.
Yes, thanks. And within the sheriff's office, they were 100% staffed briefly. I think we've had one resignation since then, but they made a lot of progress with filling their positions, particularly within the detention center. So those salary adjustments definitely had a positive impact there.
Can we get some kind of update from, in regards to EDC projects that have come to Person County, and kind of an update on what those have been and what the outcome was?
Sure.
I do have some questions, given that this will be your last time providing this to us, and a long time on the board. Chair is also unknown for the next quarterly report. So for item 2.2, which is the evaluate water and sewer capacity and city-county needs for future growth, revisit interlocal agreement. And for all 4 quarters, it says the city is working on a draft contract for the county's consideration. So, I mean, I guess it could take a year to draft an agreement, but do you have a more specific update on when to expect that?
I do not. I'm not sure where that is in the process, but I will check to find out.
2.4, complete the Person County Trail feasibility study and work with partners to implement recommendations. And it's a little bit tricky because some of these items overlap with departments, and one department will have a different update from another department. But I think what I saw with the complete document was that acquisition was expected in August. Do you know if that's still?
So, we are very close. Not sure if it's going to happen in August. I'll have to refer back to my notes. We just had a meeting in the last couple of weeks. I believe it's going to the Board of Transportation either this month or early next month.
Okay, 2.5, the goal of exploring options for regional collaboration for US 158 widening. I would say that's been done, and there was not regional support for that.
Okay.
6.3, the county facility assessment, that was something that we, I think, introduced in February of the budget session before. So what is?
So the RFP is ready to go. I think it will go out this week.
And it's not on here, I don't think anywhere, but what about that cost of services analysis that we talked about around the same time?
Okay, that, we have a proposal from NCACC, and we'll get that going shortly as well.
And then I think the only other thing, was on page 84, it didn't have a number attached to it, it was about service excellence. The goal is for the health department, the goal was to increase client understanding and participation in clinical services. And the quarterly report for Q4 said that they utilized billboards and social media to increase awareness of services. And I had mentioned to you before that there is a billboard on 501 that, to me implies that you cannot have goals and children. So I think for publicly funded ads, it should stick to, these are the services we provide and not promoting ideologies.
I do have one more question. I see the city manager is here. On that water agreement where we were trying to get, I guess, I know for over 20 years, trying to get something where we're taking water out of the Dan River. Is that still progressing along? Is the city pursuing that, or where are we at on that?
So there is an agreement still in place, but there has not been a need to pursue that. There's not a demand to put that infrastructure in place. There are plans in place that could happen if needed.
So, but would we be in jeopardy of losing that draw out of the Dan River if we don't go ahead and put infrastructure in place, or?
That was a tremendously expensive endeavor. I mean, you're not gonna be able to get grant funds for it if you don't have a demand for it. And
I just don't wanna lose the
Right.
option for it.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
Also, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but you were talking about the billboard. I see our health department director is here, so I don't know if she could add explanation to that. But I don't know about the concern about the billboard, because I have heard both where pretty much folk could connect to the billboard, and then I know where you're coming from, Commissioner Wilburn, but I know the health department director is here if she would like to explain more about that. But if not, I understand, because it would be putting her on the spot, if that's okay, Chair.
If the director would like to speak, she can.
Thank you for sharing your concerns. We do try to be cognizant of the messaging that we put out there, but at the same time, there are messages we're not able to go into the school systems and share messages about family planning and other options available to teens in the school system. So we try to use social media as well as billboards to show those options. We're also have an adolescent-friendly improvement environment, and I'm not sure if you've seen those or not. You're welcome to come to our clinics, but trying to make our facilities more welcoming to teens, to show that there are options and to give them that information to be prepared, no matter what they choose. By no means did we mean for that to say that if you do have children early in your life that you can't meet your goals, because you definitely can, but we want to be there to support you in any of your decisions. And it's just it was another avenue for us to be able to share our options.
so that was a local decision. It wasn't like a ad campaign that y'all just applied here that was developed somewhere else.
No, it was a local, we worked with the billboard company to develop it. Years ago, we had an ad at Palace Point that actually referenced a certain birth control method, and we had to pull that. So we try to get the messaging across without specifically mentioning birth control methods of any particular type.
But it could be the same picture, everything it is, and just say family planning services or.
Yes, and so we have to be careful with that wording, because some individuals associate that with Planned Parenthood and agencies like that, which we are not. So, but yes, we can use that specific.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. Right. Any other comments, questions? Right. Thank you for your report.
Sure, you're welcome.
Item 8B, Person County Advisory Board Policy, County Manager.
Okay. At our last meeting, the board approved a resolution which was to clarify some of the ethical expectations for advisory board members. And then during that meeting, the board also directed staff to develop an advisory board policy which would take the place of the outdated resolutions that we currently have in place, which are related to both the appointment process as well as the ethical expectations, and to bring that back for the board's consideration. So within your packet, you do have an advisory board policy that has been drafted. This is based on a couple of policies from other counties that were considered, as well as the provisions that were already in place for Person County. And we also took into consideration questions that have come up over time, comments that have been made over the years. How are things working now? What do we need to get into a policy to formalize? What's been working well? What might need to be adjusted? And so this is a quite lengthy policy, but it is meant to set out clear expectations for the advisory boards and committees. In addition to the resolutions that are currently in place at the county-wide level, all of our advisory boards and committees have bylaws. Some of those bylaws have been in place for a very long time. Some of the bylaws have been approved by the Board of Commissioners. Some are approved at the advisory board level. So what this policy aims to do is to create some language that's just consistent, that is no longer will be needed in all of these various bylaws because it will be contained in this policy. And then the approach moving forward would be to take a few months to work with the advisory boards and the staff liaisons to draft a policy and procedures document that is specific to each advisory board. And there's a template for that that's also provided within your agenda packet. And these policy and procedure documents would define a charge for the advisory board so that that is in writing and consistent with what the Board of Commissioners' expectations are for that advisory board. It will point back to general statutes that authorize advisory boards, whether that be a Board of Commissioners created advisory board, or if there are specific general statutes that pertain to, for example, the Planning Board or the Board of Equalization and Review. Those would be referred back to and can also be added as attachments or references within those individualized policies and procedures. So that gives the commissioners the opportunity to take a look at each advisory board and determine what your expectations are and work with staff and advisory board members to ensure that everybody's on the same page moving forward and that that is clearly documented. This particular policy has been shared with department heads. And so I have received feedback from some that have been incorporated into this particular draft. What I would ask today is for you all to provide me with your feedback, ask questions. What do we need to take a closer look at so that we can finalize this draft and bring it back to you all for approval at your next meeting on September 8th. If you are ready to move forward with approving it at that time.
Who
So-
is policing item number 8,
Okay,
under D, number 8?
so are we talking about section 8, item,
Well, section D. It's on page
What page is it on?
114, D8.
Okay.
Immediate family members.
okay.
I'm just saying, who's keeping up with that?
We're not always going to know that. Part of this is Michelle vets applicants as they come through. Some things are going to be apparent to her, others are not. And having it in a policy, though, creates that expectation that the applicant should be aware.
And his
Yes, and, act
Well-
accordingly.
Wouldn't they be signing an agreement that they were gonna be in compliance?
So they would once
So-
they're on the board, but that may be something that we need to consider as far as on the application itself. We could have a provision, it may already be on there, but that they've reviewed the policy and that they would attest to that in applying for a board.
Any comments?
Yeah, I appreciate seeing this and what went into it, and it did bring up some things that I hadn't thought of. I think there's some valuable stuff in here. But I still feel like all of this is being done because of issues that we had with one advisory board instead of addressing that board. Applying this across all boards when we have just spent a lot of time going through the bylaws for the EDC and going through the bylaws for the Human Services Advisory Committee. So we have looked at a lot of this. Some of it is, governed by state requirements already. And so also after our last meeting, it came to my attention, well, not our last meeting, but our last meeting where we discussed this, it came to my attention that the EIAC had a meeting where, the way it was told to me was the assistant county manager and the commissioner representative were treated rudely. The staff liaison had disparaging remarks made either to or about her. And then there were at least 2 email threads that happened excluding the commissioner representative, and those meetings were decisions being made where they were basically violations of the open meetings law, because they were conducting business through an email where the public had not been notified and given access. So to me, they already demonstrate that they want to operate apart from the county's guidance and rules and laws. So I don't really know what the hardship is to dissolving that board. And, okay, go ahead.
Oh, well, to touch on your point, and I know, you stated your opinion on that. I think some of your comments have merit. Yes, county attorney, in your opinion, were they in violation of the open meetings law?
Well, so the open meetings law looks at was a communication simultaneous. And whenever you have communications with the majority of the board by email, that quickly becomes gray area. And we always advise, when we train our boards, that you should not have these back and forth communications by email for that reason. So there's a case from Southern Pines from a few years ago where there was some email exchange, and the court ultimately said, well, that's not simultaneous, but I think the door is still open. And so I'd have to say it's unclear, but it's not a policy that we'd ever advise, would be to have those kind of communications by email.
Well, it was staff who indicated to me that it was a violation of the open meetings law, and there's still, the principle there of why did you leave off the county staff and the county commissioner? And I believe you were told you were left off because you're not a voting member.
Yes, I addressed that. We had a meeting, I think it was last week, and I brought that up. I don't mind asking the hard questions. And I asked, how come I wasn't on it? And they said, because you're a non-voting
See,
member.
and that comes down to the leadership of that committee. Directly the leadership. We've had, in my opinion, you're the commissioner designee for that committee. You've been disrespected. They disrespected a staff member. And I saw one person resigned off that committee. And that comes down to the leadership. And the chairman, Mr. Bauer, as you know, when he was reappointed, it was a 3-2 vote. and I was one of the dissents. I'm not in favor of dissolving the committee because I think the intent of that committee was originally good. I did not think it was gonna be weaponized at any point, but I believe it has. But I think there needs to be a change, especially around the leadership. So therefore, I will make a motion to remove Mr. Bauer from the Environmental Issues Committee. And that motion is on the floor now.
Okay, I'll, you know, where I was going with, them telling you you weren't a voting member was first of all to say that demonstrates they intended to be conducting business, right? Because they said, well, he doesn't vote, so we don't need him in this discussion. And also, I don't see anything that says you're not a voting member. If I look at the bylaws, it says the membership is on the webpage, and if you go to the webpage, your name is listed. So regardless, you know, a lot of staff time has gone into issues that have come up with the board. The county manager's been involved, the clerk, the assistant manager, the staff liaison, everybody who supports these meetings where we keep talking about it. And so I appreciate you making that motion. I would like to respectfully make a substitute motion to dissolve the board, and if we don't have the support to do that, I assume we'll vote the substitute
Yes, ma'am.
first, and we can fall back
Yes, ma'am.
to that.
So the chair recognizes we have a substitute motion on the floor. Any questions or discussion around the substitute motion?
Well, in regards to the voting aspect of it, you know, this new policy that we have, it wasn't a red line version, so I'm not sure exactly what the old policy said, because it was right lengthy too. But I think in this policy here, I think it says the county commissioner appointee is ex officio, which means you don't vote in this new policy. I don't know what the old one said.
All right,
But I've been on the rec advisory board since 2007, and I thought the commissioner person always had a vote, so I don't know, conflicted about the vote part.
all right, we have a substitute motion on the floor. Does everyone understand the substitute motion? All right. Having no other discussion, all in favor, please vote by saying aye. Any opposed?
No.
Substitute motion fails 3-2. The motion, for removal of the individual from that committee is now on the floor. Any further discussion on that?
I would like to say something about that because I remember I offered a motion to appoint Mr. Bauer there, and I know when a lot of this was transpiring, I read some of the notice that we had received, and I was not present at that meeting. So I am still actually going through all of this and preparing and looking at what we're talking about now with the policies and everything and trying to put the pieces together. And I am one, before I vote yes or no on anything, I want to put the pieces together. So I do understand the concern. I'm not saying that everything's fine with that based on what I've been able to read. But I know even if I know I can't recuse myself from this, but with this particular vote, I am still trying to put those pieces together because I've only talked to probably one person so far, and again, I understand these concerns with this, but if it's any additional information that any of you all can share that I may have missed from being in that meeting, that you can share with me to help me with making this decision, because I'm not just gonna.
Well, I think you've got all the information
Okay.
that we have.
Okay.
And I'm going off of what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And this board has really been over backwards to say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
that this isn't in your scope, and it just seems, I mean, but the hard thing is disrespecting staff,
Okay.
disrespecting the commissioner designee, acting as if you're almost a rogue committee. And you had, from what I understood on that email, one person resigned because they were uncomfortable. And that falls with leadership. But like I said, I don't wanna dissolve it,
No, I don't wanna dissolve it
but I
either.
think the leadership is the issue with that,
So would this be just changing leadership or completely taking?
We've already,
away?
no, so we've already voted down dissolving the committee. That was the previous, that was, vice chair.
yes.
So this one is removal
Moving
of,
him as a chairperson.
off
Off the
Off
committee.
the committee,
Okay.
okay?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, ma'am.
can I add clarification for the board?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so since the Board of Commissioners did create this board, they can dissolve the board, they can change the membership. So they can start all over. They can get rid of every board member that is on that board at their desire. So if this board chooses to go that route, they can start over with a fresh board and then start appointing new people and start applications.
And that may be something we can consider in the future. I think there are some good people on that board right now, but like I said, it's when it comes down to the leadership of it. And like I said, when Commissioner Blaylock created that board, he was with the best intent, and I just do not think it's following her the spirit in which was her desire when that board was created. With that being said, any further discussion? Having a hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
I take it 4-1. All right, motion passes 4-1.
I would also like clarification on whether Commissioner Long is a voting member.
Okay, and I will provide a little bit of context for that, and that's why I also think it would be, why the proposed policy language would also help clarify that moving forward. It's not clear in the bylaws, I don't think, as to whether or not you're a voting member or not. When you look at that particular committee's bylaws, it doesn't really address the commissioner representative. When we went back and looked at the minutes from the Board of Commissioners meeting when that board was formed from a previous board, it was retasked into this particular board, I think around 2014, I don't remember the exact date. But it did stipulate in those minutes that the commissioner would be non-voting, if I'm recalling correctly.
That is correct.
So that's where that comes from, I believe, but over time, that's not completely clear unless you go back and you research those minutes. So what this policy is stating is that the Board of Commissioner representative would be ex officio if this policy is adopted for our boards and committees, unless the specific policy and procedures document for that committee specifies otherwise. So like for EDC, the commission representative is a voting member on the EDC, so that would be spelled out. Otherwise, the expectation is the commission representative is non-voting unless the board has been designated as having a voting representative from the Board of Commissioners.
Well, ex officio is not standalone to mean non-voting, so it just means by the seat. So if you lose that seat, you lose your position on that board. So I think that needs to be spelled out if it's a voting ex officio or a non-voting ex officio. But, I would, like you said, EDC has always been voting. You're saying Parks and Rec has always been voting.
Yeah, because I specifically remember some instances when the Parks and Rec, and that's one of the issues I have with changing this whole policy for everybody. Each individual board has certain things they need to do, but I remember in the Parks and Rec when there were items that they were gonna vote on that would need to come across the street here for the commissioner to vote on, the county commissioner rep would say, I'm abstaining from voting because I won't be able to vote across the street if I do.
That's been the same practice with
But-
EDC.
For example, the library board, I make motions and I vote. So, I think when you're talking about your, creating your policies for each individual committee, that needs to be addressed as to, is it going to be an ex officio or a voting position? So, because, like, for an example, I abstain from voting when the library director presents his budget because there's no point for me to vote on it, because I'm gonna end up voting on it eventually, at some point. So I abstain from that. So I think each one is just, each board is unique, but to the vice chairman's point, the reason we're here is because of that one committee. And that's a lot of time, a lot of effort has gone into it. It's not saying that something good isn't coming out of this, but it just is very time consuming for staff to get this done.
And Mr. Chair, if I could, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think the county manager's intent with the policy is that the policy is a default setting. So if you don't have it written down where the ex officio is voting in their policies, then you have a rule. But if we have committees that have ex officios voting and their bylaws specify that, then that's fine too.
And what is stated in here is individuals appointed ex officio members of the advisory board are not authorized to vote on any issue before the advisory board. So that's kind of the blanket, stance. And, for example, with EDC, there are ex officio members who do not vote.
And there are ex officio members who do, the mayor does, I do.
Right. So that would be spelled out in the advisory board specific policy and procedures if the board chose to adopt this.
Well, I would rather see the commissioner representative be voting by default unless there's a reason for them to abstain, like something that they would have to double vote on. But this has not been a futile exercise, because one thing that was listed in here is appointment eligibility. No member may currently be a party to or be the actual legal representative in litigation against Person County. And in reading this and reading the minutes from our last meeting, there was a name that stood out to me as being a party to that lawsuit that we talked about when the conservation easement item came up, and being a sitting member on the Board of Adjustment. And so, that's something I would like to address even before we adopt this policy, if we do.
And just for clarity, Vice Chair is talking about a gentleman named Bernhard Lampert. He is currently a plaintiff in the Clayton v. Person County lawsuit, the MEC lawsuit, and he also sits on the County Board of Adjustment.
So that's a board that is making quasi-judicial land use decisions, and he's in a lawsuit with the county over the land use decision, or zoning decision. So, what is the process to remove them based on?
Well, so as I want to just point to the agenda packet on the proposed.
You make a motion like you
Sorry?
did a while ago.
I think you were just
I
asking.
don't know, he said.
Yeah, so what I wanted to point out with our proposed policy, we have some clarity. Of course, the policy hasn't been adopted yet, but under removal, what it essentially says, I'm looking under, it's on page 117, it's H1. If this board policy is adopted, it would be advisory board members who serve at the pleasure of the Board of Commissioners and may be removed at any time by majority vote of the Board of Commissioners with or without cause. And so the board would be setting a clear standard that folks could be removed at any time. As we discussed a little bit earlier, I think someone participating in litigation against the county would certainly be a basis for cause. So I think if the board wanted to proceed today, Commissioner, you could, or you could have that discussion at a future meeting.
Okay, they do meet tomorrow night.
Yes, ma'am.
So the alternate would need to be notified if it passed, but I will go ahead and make the motion to remove them from the Board of Adjustment.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Haven't.
I'm sorry, I do want to interject because, is the Board of Adjustment, though, considered differently than a Board of Commissioners created board? I mean, I think we've had some conversation around that and why I wasn't prepared necessarily to adopt this policy
Oh, we're not
today
adopting
without,
the policy.
okay.
We're not adopting the
Okay.
policy.
Just, my recollection is there are certain processes or procedures related to other types of boards, like the Board of Adjustment or the Planning Board, something that's statutorily defined, and why we would have those supplemental provisions for those particular boards, that in all cases, this may not be a one-size-fits-all, even though we're trying
Well-
as much as
Well,
possible.
that's, what we're talking about now is a removal of an individual about the policy, because we do, board members on these committees serve at the pleasure of the Board of Commissioners, so that's what's being discussed right now. So we have a motion on the floor.
I have a question. So I'm listening to what county manager is saying about statutes, what the statutes say, and then our county policy. So making the motion to remove this individual who has, a standing suit against the county, we're looking at that as our county policy, correct? Is what I'm trying to understand what county
So-
manager was saying about, because I couldn't hear everything.
This is, so
She was saying about the statutes.
Right, to whether there's something specific that would apply to this particular type
Okay,
of
okay.
appointment that might be different from
to my,
a board
that
created.
board didn't meet for
Board.
4 or 5 years. And, we appointed, we made some appointments because they were gonna be needed. And to my experience of serving on this board, we have removed board members in the past from that board or from the planning board because of attendance issues. So I think Vice Chair Wilburn's motion stands.
Okay.
All right. So we have a motion. All in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion's been approved. And we'll follow back up in September with the suggestions and everything.
Okay.
As you indicated.
Okay, could I just a couple of other
Yes, ma'am.
clarifying while we're still on the policy, and I did want to clarify as far as it not being a red line version, because our starting point was a couple of very pretty short documents, and a lot of it was outdated, so there wasn't really a starting point as far as redlining goes. So you will see differences between this policy and the bylaws, because again, there's so many different provisions in the different bylaws. There's really no way to translate those over into the policy. So in a way, this was a start from scratch kind of thing versus taking an existing policy and redlining it. So it's not as easy to track as it might be if we were just updating an existing policy. But this is really kind of starting with something new. But if it would be helpful for you all for me to take some of those documents that are currently in place and try to highlight some of the changes in advance of the next meeting, I can do that. There's another provision in here that I have received a question about, and that is related to elected officials serving on advisory boards and committees. So I'm going to try to find that reference. So it does say on page 115 of the packet, which is page 3 of the policy, no person appointed to an advisory board may concurrently serve in any publicly elected office. And this does not apply where the appointment is required by law, intergovernmental agreement, or approved Person County Board specific policy. So again, there can be an exception to that in a board specific policy. There are certainly seats designated on some of our boards for, in particular, a city designee who's a member of city council and therefore an elected official. And we have an instance on one of our advisory boards where one of the members has been elected to public office. So that question came up from that advisory board staff liaison to whether that person would continue to be eligible to serve because they have become an elected official.
So that board has already a city representative, and so that would put 2 city council members on the same board.
Right.
Okay. I can see how that could be an an issue if you end up with.
Yeah, so I think this particular provision would be meant to avoid that type of situation, as well as there are state statutes that speak to elected officials and how many appointed seats they can have. So it may also be an effort to avoid any type of conflict with that state policy as well. But I did want to call that to your attention as a question that has come up since this policy was drafted, and something you may want to consider. That's something new in
Well,
this
we
particular
already
policy.
did that back in June of 25. I mean, I wasn't elected, but I was appointed to an elective office, and I had to go off the rec board and the EDC board. So, I mean, we've been doing that all along, so.
Yeah,
I
and
think she's talking about there's some unattended, you know,
Consequences,
unattended. So, but I do think it's merit that does need to be added into the policy as well.
And it seems like a pretty big task to try to look at all the different boards' bylaws and look at this and see how you can make it all mesh together. Is there not a resolution that is in place for how this board creates boards and how they're governed? That, I mean, would it be easier to take the things that we feel like need to be added from this and add them to that resolution that would apply to all boards?
well, there is a resolution in place that is related to the way the commissioners make appointments. I had included that in the previous agenda packet, so I didn't put it back in this one. But we can take a look at that again. I tried to ensure that the provisions within that resolution that we have continued to apply to the process were incorporated into this policy. And then, of course, add in information that I felt was missing from that resolution that would help better guide the process. So there is that appointment resolution in place currently. And again, that was written prior to technology, and our processes have evolved over time. And then each of our advisory boards has been created in different ways. Some by ordinance. There's an ordinance for the Recreation Advisory Board. There's an ordinance for the Animal Services Advisory Board. Some are by resolution. Some are just documented in the minutes. So this would be an effort to create some consistency as you work through each board in terms of how that's spelled out and how that those decisions would be approached board by board moving forward.
Yeah, because as I look at this list of boards again, some of them we've just extensively reviewed the bylaws, and others we've never had any issues arise. So I don't want to create more unintended consequences or.
I think anytime you make a change, there's always going to be some type of unintended consequences, and you just have to tackle them as they come around. That's just my experience. Right?
Okay.
Right.
I'll bring this back. We'll have additional staff review over the next couple of weeks and bring this back on September 8th.
Thank you. All right. I have no report, County Manager.
I have a few things I wanted to mention. One, I know that you all are aware, but just to make the public announcement, our existing industry specialist, Brian Eatman, has been appointed as the interim economic development director. So he is currently serving in that capacity. And then our assistant county manager, Brian Hart, recently completed the Public Executive Leadership Academy through the School of Government. So I'd like to highlight that professional development opportunity that he pursued and graduated from the last couple of weeks. So congratulations to both of them. And then Labor Day is on September 7th, which would be your next regularly scheduled board meeting. So the commissioners will be meeting on Tuesday, September 8th for your next board meeting at 6 p.m. in this room.
Vice Chair Wilburn.
Thank you. I want to wish everybody a good, safe, and fruitful school year. I think Pershing County schools are starting today, and charter schools have already started. And I believe it's also the first day of PCC, and I saw lots of pictures over the weekend of college drop-offs. So a good part of the county is experiencing this right now, and I just want to acknowledge that. I will be attending the NCACC board meeting, followed by the annual meeting this week from Wednesday through Saturday, and that will be my last commitment for that board. As the manager said, I want to congratulate Brian Eatman for being named as the interim director. He has been doing a great job for the department since he joined, and I always get a lot of positive feedback from those out in the community that he interacts with and serves with, and including industry partners. We had an existing industry visit earlier this month with CertainTeed. They are adding a third shift, which opens up a number of job opportunities with them. Voltage had a big hiring event that was reportedly well attended. I heard a number of 150 participants. They have quite a few job postings. North American Aerodynamics is hiring. Zachary is hiring. So there's a lot of job opportunities in the county right now with our industry. Not sure if that answers any of your questions, Commissioner Long, but also the EDC packets, which are available on the EDC website, include updates on project activity, you know, what was requested and what they were able to respond to, minutes and everything else. I had an hour-long visit with John Taylor, who is Senator Budd's regional director. He stopped by my office when he was in town for an event at Person Family Medical. I also participated in a larger group meeting with Congressman Knott when he was in town. I shared with both of them the most recent update that I have about the Duke Energy and Mayo property owners discussions, which I had gotten from Brian Eatman, who's participated in those meetings. Brian shared with me that he thought it's just a matter of time at this point before all the stakeholders have something ready to present to the Army Corps, and that of course is a federal regulatory body, so that's where their awareness comes in, the senator and the congressman. Western Sewer. I watched the city council meeting from last Tuesday evening, and they announced that they were going to need an approval to close a gap on the Western Sewer project to keep that moving and wrap it up. The city manager explained that there may be some state funds still available since they hadn't used all of the, I'm just going to use the number of $27 million. That was what I've heard along the way, as what the grant was allocated for that. But it was going to take some time to get that request approved, and they wanted to keep the project moving, so they said there were some funds that were originally pledged from the county that could still be available. So they kind of had some discussion and decided they did not have internal funds to pledge, and so the way it was discussed in the meeting is that they wanted the city manager to ask this board if we could discuss at our meeting today to have them draw down the funds that were previously approved to move forward with that, and then they would need to have a special called meeting to take the vote that they needed to take. And so they were fully expecting that we would need to discuss and approve the release of any more funds for this. So the reason I'm bringing this up in my comments is because this is a project that's been many, many years in the works. And I feel like it is, even though the manager sent us an email that said, you know, basically it wasn't necessary for it to come to the board, and I've had other conversations with her, and the way I understand it is that this was something that was pledged and approved by a previous iteration of the board. So we don't have anything to do with whether it gets expended or not at this point. It was approved in the CIP for 23 for 3 years. So as long as it's submitted for things that were expended before June 30th of this year, it's already been voted on, and we don't need to vote on it. But I think it could be confusing for any members of the public who watched that meeting and thought we were going to discuss it and vote on it, especially if they go back and have a special called meeting and say, yeah, the county said we could have these funds, and then, you know, we didn't discuss it. Because there's been a number of newspaper articles about it over the years, and so I feel like this is the opportunity to bring it up. And I think it's also important to give a little bit of the history of the project for this board, for anybody who wasn't around then, and for the city council members who weren't, to stress that the reason the county pledged the money to begin with, and even though the number we were given was the $1 million from the previous board's CIP, there was also 568 or 86,000 for the engineering of the project that was done in 2021 at the request of the EDC. So I want to read a little bit of a letter of support from the Person County Economic Development Commission Chair, who was Philip Allen then, and Vice Chair, who was Dale Reynolds. And this letter is addressed to Chairman Jeffers. Ray Jeffers was the chair of this board at that time. And that's significant because, of course, he became our state representative and was key, as I understand it, in getting that $27 million for the city to do this project. So his background from that was having the EDC come and request it. And these comments that I will read from this letter reappear in the county manager, who was Heidi York then, in her CIP request, in her request for applying for a grant before they got the $27 million. But the purpose is to show that this all goes back to the county's interest in this is for the purpose of economic development. So it says, as the commissioner representative on the EDC commission, you are aware that a January 7th special call meeting, the EDC prioritized a request that the county provide funding for the city of Roxboro's Western Sewer System construction project to be engineered and designed at an estimated cost of $500,000. Direction was given by the EDC to have the director request these funds through the fiscal year 2021 budget process in the form of a capital improvement project request. So that was done, that was approved, the money went, the engineering was done. The case was, without the construction of the Western Sewer System to alleviate wastewater constraints, development in Person County from the southern part of the city of Roxboro to the southern border of Person County will be hindered indefinitely. Already, projects involving mixed-use, residential, and commercial industrial development are unable to be considered where extension of existing wastewater infrastructure is required. The total estimated cost for this project is $10 million. So that tells you how much it changed from when it first started in 2022 to now, or to when they put out bid for it. So more than double. So they'll be seeking grant monies and loan dollars to fund this. So this came about when the EDC was doing strategic planning and a SWOT analysis, and Commissioner Long was on the EDC back then. And so this was really something that was pushed primarily by Dale Reynolds to say, this is where we found out that we don't have sewer capacity to pretty much do anything. There were projects that wanted to happen then and couldn't. And still now there's residential development that's waiting for this to be completed so they can move forward. So the reason I bring that up now in this discussion is because if we had on our agenda to discuss and to vote, I would fully support, by all means, let's do whatever is necessary to keep this project going and make sure it doesn't slow down, make sure it doesn't stop. But what the manager said to us was that if additional state funding comes through, the city may be in a position to return funds to the city. And what the finance director said was, if the city has eligible project costs that have not been covered by the state allotment, I believe those costs will be consistent with the intent and spirit of the CIP plan. So I'm not clear on this if the city is still being asked to pursue the funds from the state and then reimburse the county if they get it.
That is my
He's
understanding.
shaking his head.
Right, so they have requested funding from the state for the overages. And that request is pending and with an unknown time frame with bills that need to be paid. So the city has asked the county for the remaining funding to go towards the project to keep things moving along. And if the funding from the state comes through, then they would be in a position to reimburse potentially some of those funds to the county, because I do not know in what amount, and that's why I use the word may, because I don't know what that looks like in the end as far as how the project plays out and what the state will cover. So I do know that they are currently running ahead of schedule. The city manager shared 4 to 5 months ahead of schedule per the contract that's currently in place. So they are moving towards being able to complete this, and there are expenses that have been incurred and more to come that need to be covered.
So, because there's not an MOU in place, so it seemed uncertain as to whether that would be, any would come back to us if the state fully funded the entire project. So the total allocation, if everything that was in the CIP that was approved for the project from 21 to now would be $1,568,000. And so another concern I have is that at least 2 times there was a split vote on whether to approve change orders, and the mayor had to vote to break the tie, and I have thanked her in the EDC meetings, and I'll do it again at the next one because she's done it again since, for doing that, because I think the reservation that was from the people who voted no for the change orders, because they were not significant at all in comparison to the size of the project, was, kind of this idea that the scope and the budget should have been determined better. But even as we look at how much it changed, 10 million to 27 million, and in my professional experience, it's completely understandable that there's going to be change orders in a project of that scope and magnitude that has gone on for this long. And so, this money is going, it's for the purpose of the city partnering to advance growth and advance economic development. And yet, once it's gone, we don't have any say of whether they approve change orders, finish out the project, have development-friendly policies, or any of that. So I just thought it was a good time to revisit why and remind, and again, with the county manager leaving, by the time this project is over, I expect our chairman will not be here either. And so I wanted to make sure that we had an understanding of what the expectations were about reimbursement, no reimbursement, and all of that. And that is all I have.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what everyone's saying about congratulating Brian on his job well done, and of course, want to think about all the teachers that are going back to school. I want everyone to have a great school year and be safe with the buses on the roads, and just everyone have a great year.
Commissioner Royster?
Good morning. I would like to, as my colleagues have said, to wish a good back to school for the students in Person County. I had an opportunity this morning before our board meeting to go and welcome some kids to school at South, and I will shout out Miss Hugh for a great deed she did for me this morning, and she know what it is. So, but it was, the kids were excited, the parents were excited. There are a lot of children. So we're hoping all of our kids in Person County have a wonderful and safe and successful school year this year. I attended the prayer vigil on yesterday that was held by the Person County Ministerial Alliance, where they prayed for our school systems and our our elected officials and our families in Person County on yesterday evening. I also attended, it's not even about me, but to thank all of the organizations and folk coming together over the weekend in Person County, and not just this past weekend, I think throughout this month, and making sure that the children in this county had everything that they needed for the school year. So there were a few giveaways, and I did have an opportunity to speak with some young men on Saturday morning while they were getting their haircuts to let them know that this community is rooting for them, and hope that they have a wonderful school year this year. I also attended, along with Chairman Pierre, the ribbon cutting last Thursday, New Horizons Academy, which is a day treatment program, and it's a partnership with Youth Haven Center and Person County Schools. And what this facility, or this school, I should say, school does is for those children who have those behavioral or mental health challenges where a traditional classroom is not right for them right now. They work with them on those things so they could transition back into the school. And that was a really enlightening and inspiring ribbon cutting. There's a lot of happy people there, but I'm so excited that we finally have this resource back in Person County for our children. I also attended the National Health Center Week at Person Family Medical, and that was last Thursday, I think it was, Thursday or Friday. No, it was last Friday. And that was actually the Legislative Partnership Appreciation Day. And there were representatives from Senator Tillis' office, Senator Budd, our North Carolina Senator Jonah Garson was present, as well as our Mayor Cynthia Petty, where we listened to the needs, of course, all of the strengths and the good things that Person Family Medical is doing in the community. And it was pretty much letting their folk know, or their leaders know, and for Person County, what's going on, and their plans for the future for the community. And last thing, I will be attending the NCACC annual meeting on Friday, and from our last meeting where we recognized Miss Camille Clay, so that's when she will be officially receiving her scholarship from the North Carolina Association of Black County Officials. So I will be attending that meeting with her on Friday.
Commissioner Long?
Okay, I'm on piggyback on the school openings too. I know today is the first day traditional schools in Person County opening. Last week the charter schools opened. So I want to give a shout out to Ronnie Epps' little brother, Person County People's Champ, and Mr. Richardson with Chick-fil-A. They offered free breakfast this morning to all the students and teachers. And I seen Ronnie was out there early this morning with his Facebook post. I know it was early because the lights were still on the side of the building. So I also attended the rec board meeting on August the 4th, and Miss Brand was voted in as chairman. We had an opening with a chairman on that committee, so she was voted as chairman. I think it's been mentioned Mayo Lake and Duke Energy Group, they met on August the 5th, and they have a tentative agreement that's waiting on the Army Corps of Engineers to approve. And I attended the Environmental Issues Committee meeting on August the 6th. August the 7th, I attended the Person Veteran Council Purple Heart Memorial Dedication. There was a big turnout for that. And on August 13th, I attended the Fire Chiefs meeting. And of course, the Planning Board meeting, it's not an appointment of mine, but the Planning Board meeting was canceled on the 13th. We didn't have the Planning Board meeting this month. Is that correct?
It's been canceled for the last 3 months ever since we made that change, so that's a big reduction in staff time spent on that.
So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Do I have a motion to go into the closed session number 1 per General Statute 143-318.11A6 for the purpose to discuss personnel with the following individuals permitted to attend: County Manager Catherine Cathy, Clerk to the Board Michelle Solomon, and County Attorney T.C. Morphus Jr.
So moved.
A motion, all in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
And Mr. Chairman, I apologize for making this request at this time, but would it be possible to add a second closed session to discuss attorney-client privilege matters? And I apologize for doing this in the middle of the meeting, but it is something that I need to provide information to the board on.
Members of the board, do I have a motion to add a second closed session to the agenda?
So
And what were the purpose?
It's for subsection A3 for attorney-client privileged matters.
Okay. All in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. A second closed session has been added, and which we will be followed directly after we complete our first closed session. We're now in closed session.
thinking this was gonna be
All right. We're now in open session. Do I have a motion to approve an agreement for interim county manager services for Mr. Ralph Clark, who shall serve at the pleasure of the board until a permanent county manager is appointed or until this agreement is terminated, effective October 1st, 2026?
So moved.
We have a motion. Any further discussion? Having heard none. All in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The contract has been approved. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
We have a motion. All in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned.